Hello there, boxing fans around the world. Thanks for joining me once again here on Talk and Fight for another episode of Boxing News Today, courtesy of our many friends around the world. And today we're going to start off with a few quotes courtesy of Deontay Wilder, one of the boxers I think should retire from the sport, mainly due to the concussions he's suffered in the ring. But of late, he's been speaking a lot and being quoted a lot. And so today he's talking about the pay-per-view scenario and the various fight fans out there across the world who, quote unquote, steal pay-per-view events and thus take money out of the pockets of boxers in a nutshell. So he's saying, stop stealing the pay-per-views in a nutshell. He says, we can't make the numbers. We can't do numbers if everybody's pirating the goddamn pay-per-views and streaming them. That's why the numbers are so down, and they're going to be down because everybody's stealing them. These fighters work very hard to risk their lives for others' entertainment. Let's get some respect. Let's watch these fights and pay for these pay-per-views. If you can't afford to, pay for it alone. Double up, team up. Let's come together. Now, the author of this particular article on Boxing News, on boxing24.com, a fellow by the name of James Slater adds his own comments to this. He goes, this is an interesting subject. He says, there are, one could certainly argue, far too many pay-per-view fights out there these days, and a hardcore fight fan who is unwilling to miss a thing but cannot afford to pay for so many hundreds of dollars or pounds per year will say he or she has no option but to stream some of these fights. On the other hand, as Wilder's made clear, fighters at pay-per-view levels are paid by the revenue a pay-per-view fight brings in. But stopping illegal streaming has proven to be a tough thing for the powers that be. Maybe Wilder's suggestion of teaming up with friends when paying for a pay-per-view fight is the best thing, fairest thing to do. In a nutshell, you're stealing from a fighter if you're illegally watching watching his or her fights via a stream there. That's what he has to say. Now, this issue, quite frankly, was tackled by the music industry many years ago, and successfully so. So why it can't be done by the boxing industry is beyond me. Moving along, let's have another look at boxingnews24.com. A fellow by the name of Sean Jones, a writer, says Canelo Alvarez will have to run the gauntlet for him to retake his number one pound for pound by defeating these three: Dmitry Bivol, David Benavidez, and Artur Beterbiev. Fighting the Hammer John Ryder does nothing for Canelo because he's not an elite fighter to help him move up the pound-for-pound rankings. That fight is just a foxhole for Canelo to hide in, he says. Canelo has had his time as the number one pound-for-pound guy in the sport, and he's been kicked off that hill by Terence Crawford. Unfortunately for Canelo, he's not going to take his number one spot back unless he does something dramatic by beating the big three. Said Sergio Mora, it's going to be tough and the odds are against him, and I'm going to say no about whether or not Canelo will ever be the number one pound-for-pound fighter again. If Canelo wants to be back at number one, you know what he has to do: Bivol, Beterbiev, and Benavidez. If he can knock one of those guys off, yes, he can take the number one spot, but for now, beating the John Ryders of the world, that's not going to do it. There are too many people waiting behind you to claim that spot. He's been a pro since he was 15 years old, he points out, and has 62 fights. But that wear and tear on his body, you see it all the time. His knees, his elbows, his hand injury start to pile up at the age he is now. I remember I started boxing. I have a lot of injuries catching up to me in the early 30s. Your body's not the same, Mora continues. Is he still going to be an elite fighter? Yes. He's still going to be a pay-per-view star? Absolutely. But pound for pound, number one, that belongs to if Crawford and Spence ever fight. If Inoue or Fulton ever fight, and Usyk Fury ever fight, it begins to those types of fighters, the mega fighters, said Mora. I think he'll get back to number one, however, because I still think the elite fighter is in there, said Mora, about his belief that Canelo can retake the number one pound-for-pound spot. Bivol is always going to be a challenging opponent. He's bigger and stronger, and he's every bit as skilled as Canelo, and he doesn't make the mistakes that some of Canelo Alvarez's other opponents make. But he's about to exploit that. And if he beats John Ryder and over the next couple of years beats guys like Dave Benavidez and Edgar Berlanga, like Jermell Charlo, guys are going to be available to fight, and guys he's shown a willingness and eagerness to get in there and fight, he's going to pop right back up there at that number one spot. Well, that remains to be seen. Boxing fans, I'm sure you'll agree with me, that remains to be seen. Speaking of seeing, boxing fans over in Vietnam enjoyed a show, and we don't often report about our fans over in Vietnam, but here I've got a report courtesy of Jenny Doe on Shadow Entertainment, who presented another edition of the Lead event series this past weekend. The show took place at the Saigon Sports Club in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. The main event saw local unbeaten super middleweight Din Huang Trung, who's 4-0, 3 knockouts, defeat Dae Hyun Baek. He's 4-2 out of South Korea by way of unanimous decision. Both Huang and Baek showed confidence in their fighting techniques and tactics. The two boxers exchanged lightning speed attacks with powerful hooks throughout the bout. Huang began to have the edge over his opponent in the 7th round as he dished out accurate punches. The Vietnamese boxer won the overall battle and successfully defended his WBA Asia belt. By the way, the supporting bout saw unbeaten WBA number 8 ranked Hu Tuan Lee, 6-1, of Vietnam, surprisingly upset the Garan Diagan, 9-3, 5 knockouts out of the Philippines. Both Tuan and Diagan started off the fight with powerful attacks. The Vietnamese boxer dominated the following rounds with his combination of horizontal hooks and uppercuts, while Diagan played defense and managed to have many successful counterattacks. Tuan, however, had his chance to finish off his opponent, but Diagan was able to evade the attacks thanks to his impressive stamina. After 12 rounds, Diagan defeated Tuan by just 1 point and won the WBA Asia miniweight belt. Wow. The other supporting bout saw unbeaten Nguyen No Hai, 5-0, and 3 draws, 4 knockouts out of Vietnam. Win it by technical knockout over Can Pi Pham out of Thailand in a 10-round bout for the WBA South Asia Super Lightweight title. Unbeaten Nguyen Nuc Hai, 5-0, by the way, of Vietnam, TKO'd Pham 22-6-2, by the way, 14 knockouts, a very strong contender from Thailand, with the turning point occurring in the second round when Pham lost his focus, allowing Hai to continuously dish out his attacks. The Thai boxer fell down twice, tried to continue the fight, but the referee decided to stop the match and announced a second-round technical knockout victory for Hai. Unbeaten teen sensation, Irvin A.J. Pakianis, 4-0, shined in his first scheduled 10-rounder in the flyweight division, stopping Sarawat Jamtong with a highlight reel second-round knockout. Wow, so congratulations to Jenny, and let's look forward to hearing more out of Vietnam. Around the world we go to M&R Boxing. It's been previously reported that the IBF had ordered a super flyweight eliminator between former world champions and management stablemates Felix Alvarado, who's 38-3, by the way, and Christopher Rosales, who's 35-6. The bout is to determine the number 1 mandatory challenger to current champion Fernando Martinez. M&R Boxing, who promotes Alvarado, won with a bid of $2,500 US. Matchroom, who promotes Rosales, did not bid. Alvarado's manager, William Ramirez, out of WRAM Boxing, had some insight on the purse bid. He said, "This is a fight which, when it was ordered, I was excited for. However, we could not come to terms with the Rosales team, and therefore it went to purse bid. As you know, I'm always confident in my fighters. Unfortunately, no one showed on Rosales' part." So let's have a quick look at the April boxing schedule, which is coming up just around the corner. And that will conclude our show. April 1st, as we know, we've got Robusti Ramirez taking on Isaac Dogbo for the vacant WBO featherweight title. That's going to be a 12-rounder taking place in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Of course, we're going to see Anthony Joshua take on Jermaine Franklin on DAZN. That's a heavyweight battle scheduled for 12 rounds taking place over in London, United Kingdom. Also on that fight, by the way, as we reminded you on the Friday night panel, Craig Richards takes on Ricards Bolotniks in the light heavyweight division, and Felix Cash is taking on Matteo Signani. in the middleweight division. Then following week on April 8th, we're going to see Shakur Stevenson take on Shoichiro Yoshini. That's on ESPN Plus for the WBC lightweight title eliminator. That's a 12-rounder taking place in Newark, New Jersey. By the way, Keyshawn Davis is going to take on Emmanuel Tagot in the lightweight division. And Jared Anderson's going to go in the ring and tackle George Arias in the heavyweight division over 10 rounds. Fantastic stuff. Also on that night, we're going to see Kenshiro Teraji take on Jonathan Gonzalez for the WBC, WBA junior flyweight titles. That'll take place in Tokyo, Japan, and that's scheduled for 12-rounder. Also on that fight, you're going to see Takuma Inoue take on Labario Solis for the vacant WBA bantamweight title over 12 rounds. Also on that night, Jesse Rodriguez goes toe-to-toe with Christian Gonzalez for the vacant WBO flyweight title, 12 rounds, San Antonio, Texas. Also on that bout card, Marjan Akhmadaliev takes on Marlon Tapales for the WB IBF junior featherweight titles, also 12-rounder. Also that night, taking place in Carson City, California, Sebastian Fundora takes on Brian Mendoza on Showtime, and that's for the WBC interim junior middleweight title. By the way, also on that card, we're going to see Brandon Lee and Pedro Campa. They're going to fight 10 rounds for the junior welterweight division. April 15th, the following week, Joe Joyce takes on Zhelai Zhang on ESPN Plus. That's in London, United Kingdom, heavyweight division, 12 rounds. Also on that card, Michaela Mayer takes on Christina Leonardatu in the lightweight division, 10-rounder. And Denzel Bentley takes on Kieran Smith in the middleweight division over 12 rounds. And after that, the following week, we're going to see finally Gervonta Tank Davis take on Ryan Garcia on Showtime pay-per-view. That's April 22nd. That's in the catchweight division, 136 pounds, in Las Vegas, Nevada, over 12 rounds. Looking forward to that indeed. Also that night on DAZN, Shavkat Zon Rakhimov takes on Joe Cordina on DAZN. Rakhimov IBF junior lightweight titles on the line here. And that's going to take place in Cardiff, Wales, over 12 rounds. And finally, on the last week in April, Saturday night, April 29th, we're going to see Virgil Ortiz Jr. take on Ilimantas Stantonius, TBA TV, welterweight division. Arlington, Texas is hosting it over 12 rounds. Fantastic stuff. By the way, the next week I might want to add, first week in May 6th, you're going to see that Canelo Alvarez, John Ryder fight. Again, TBA TV to be announced. And this is, as we all know, Canelo's WBC, WBA, WBO, IBF, Ring Magazine super middleweight titles are on the line. And that's taking place in Guadalajara, Mexico. I believe it's sold out. And I believe a ringside seat is going to cost you like $50,000. But good for them. Good for them indeed. And let's see, boxing continued in its popularity, rise up the ranks. Thank you for joining me here on Talk and Fight. Appreciate it. Remember, like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. And we'll see you later on at 4 p.m. when I join Mike Gore and Cedric Ben for their show, Knuckle Up.